go ahead and proceed. Anyone have any objections to that? Okay.
No objections. The two items I have on there are for just update informational purposes and no action is required on them. So I don't anticipate that we would need other commissioners to be a part of that.
All right. So we in looking at the agenda then, we're going to be moving to the item 6 on the agenda, because all of those items in 1 through 5, require some kind of vote. And so we're gonna, is anyone from the police department here?
No, I had talked to Commissioner Washington about that. I believe she was going to try and work with somebody to come, but I don't see anybody on the call from there.
Okay, and I do know, and just I think the community should know that too. I think there has been some discussion about changes at the way the police department sort of communicates, and that they are not going to be having representatives at all meetings, I think, going forward. So we're looking into that and just want to make sure. Is Nakomas here?
I don't see him on the call.
All right. Councilman McDuffie's office. Okay, so this is going to be a real interesting and short meeting this evening. So we're now under item 7, and this is the Bridges Public Charter School painting.
That's Commissioner Washington's single member district, and she had asked for that to be on the agenda. So I don't.
Okay, so this is an item then. I think it was an update. She had sort of mentioned something about it. Is anyone here from Bridges that wants to discuss that issue? Not hearing anyone. Commissioner Lucio will move into item B there, the Mundo Verde Public Charter School.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Edwards, and welcome Kristen Scotchmore from Mundo Verde. This is just primarily an update for the community. As I mentioned at our last meeting, our last non-special meeting, I believe it was, Mundo Verde would be acquiring a building and is going to be expanding. We are just in the very early stages of this process, but I wanted them to be here to share just where they are and what's gone on so far. So Kristen, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucio, and thank you, Chairman Edwards. Just a question about how much time. I have a few slides, but I want to just be mindful of the agenda and what you had anticipated.
Well, I think you've been reasonable in the past, and so we I think if you can take the time to give us what you have.
Okay, I appreciate the recognition, and nice to see you again, Chairman Edwards. May I share my screen?
I gave you screen sharing. You should be a co-host.
Yep. Okay, cool. Thank you.
And Kristen, just as a reminder, if you can send those slides to me so I can post them, I'd appreciate it.
I've done that. Thank you. I will do that. So I just have a few slides, a little bit of a reminder of where we've been and when the last time we were before this ANC, and where we are, a few numbers, and then how some of the concerns we're hearing already, and what we're doing about addressing those concerns. So as you know, the last time I was before this ANC, we were proposing a charter amendment to expand into this part of Ward 5. To operate a new campus at the 4401 8th Street location, and to enroll more students, approximately 600 to 635 students in an elementary school pre-K to 5th grade. We have been in this building now, it's hard to believe, especially with the way the pandemic has warped how we think about time. But we have been growing at this campus and we are about to outgrow the campus. And so we've been exploring multiple options for how we, I apologize, my dog is making very funny noises in the background on recording. We are at 3rd grade now, and in order for our program to be complete, we need space for our 4th and 5th grades. So we've been exploring a number of different options, believing that we need about 15,000 square feet to do this. We heard loud and clear from this community and this ANC the call for us to consider not building on site at 8th Street, though we could, and to really explore spaces, other spaces for this for this continued space that we need. So we did a pretty robust search. This is our Cayocho campus. It has 40,000 square feet and 21 classrooms, and we need about 10 more classrooms in order to, we have modeled what it looks like to build on the campus. But as I said, we've done a pretty robust real estate search. Here gives you a sense of where we've been, a study that looked at our space requirements, the feasibility of building on site, an affordability study, and then a real estate search. We looked at properties all over Ward 5. And then we're really just honored and excited when Commissioner Lucio helped us connect with Providence Hospital about the Varnum property, because we believe it both provides a solution to the fact that we need more space. It also, we believe, provides us some opportunities to address traffic and parking, which continues to be a concern that we manage, but we don't have a lot of space on which to manage it. And it also addresses our family's concerns, which is they were really worried that we would end up in a second site for 4th and 5th grade in a distant part of the ward. So we're seeing this as our preferred path forward, Varnum Street property. As I mentioned, it allows, we anticipate a very small building. It's 3.5 acres. And we will build about 15 to 20,000 square feet. This will allow for the indoor space we need, but as well, we plan to do quite a bit of work on the outside spaces. So we envision gardens, we envision play spaces, and we hope that this is space that not only our students, but during off hours, neighbors might benefit from. Our board has voted to move forward with the project. The city council is in the process of approving our bond resolution. And this process that I'm presenting to you is we are going before the PCSB for a charter amendment, which allows us to operate at another location. We've begun the design process and we anticipate construction to start next summer. This just gives you a sense of the property. And I apologize, if you give me 1 minute, I may be able to address the fact that are you all hearing this, my puppy, really loudly?
Yeah, but it's okay. Don't worry about
Okay,
it.
it's not distracting for you. Okay, it's distracting for me, but if it's not too distracting for you. Okay, so you see on the far left corner, this is our what we call our Cayocho campus. That's the 8th Street property. We are working on a plan to purchase the Varnum Street property, which is the outside. The Stewart Center is a neighbor now and will be an even closer neighbor if we're successful with this purchase. And then the bond resolution actually allows us to refinance our Cook campus renovations into what is a school-wide bond that supports our facilities. This is a text version of what I just described, how we're using the bond proceeds. It's, as I said, it's a multifaceted approach to consolidate all of our facilities expenses into one bond.
Kristen, I just want to clarify, because it was asked in the chat, you are not purchasing the Stewart Center. The new building is in closer proximity to the Stewart Center.
Yes, no, we, by all means, we are not purchasing the Stewart Center. We will just be much closer neighbor. By purchasing the 817 Barnum property. We're a neighbor now, but we'll be right next door to the Stewart Center. So that box in the middle is an approximate version of what of the Stewart Center and the property lines for the other pieces. Parking and traffic are, of course, topics that we are actively engaged in managing now. And I know it's been up and down in terms of there are ways in which our team needs to do better. And we are working to make sure that we continue to manage this issue. We currently have 46 parking spaces on site. And we don't yet know how many we will put on the Varnum site. We will be conducting a pretty robust transportation and traffic study. And we've charged our architect team with considering traffic and parking implications of this small development. This just gives you a sense of where do our students come from. This was of particular interest to the folks from the single member district. You can see that really proud to say over 50% of our families come from Ward 5. And many of them are in the immediate zip codes 17 and 18. The next largest group of students come from Ward 4. And then we have a few people from other wards. We don't anticipate this changing, if anything, dramatically. If anything, what we have seen, I think because this campus is a little bit harder to access from public transit, is that more and more of our students are coming from Ward 5. So I anticipate if this were to change, that it's likely that the Ward 5 number would go up slightly versus folks coming from further locations. A little bit about how many students walk to school, how much traffic we're currently seeing. So we know and appreciate that many of the streets are private, and we are working to maintain relationships with the institutions in our community. We've, as I mentioned, our architect is being charged with very specifically considering how to manage traffic and parking. We will do another study with the Grove Slade, the company that did the traffic study for us 5 years ago, now really considering, they considered our current numbers, but now considering the second property. And then what we heard last week, and I'm very mindful of, and we're setting up individual meetings with each neighbor, is that our construction will affect each neighbor a little bit differently in terms of the Stewart Center, the Mayor Center, and the Friary across the street. So we intend to meet with each of those and very immediate neighbors to consider what the impact of the construction will be. I think I mentioned this, and that's the extent of what I have.
Kristen, I do have a question, Chairman Edwards, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
It was raised in the chat, and I know we talked about this at the single member district meeting. Can you address the interest in the bus as an option?
Yes, we have run buses every year, other than the pandemic year where no students were on campus. We ran the bus last year. Last year, the bus was really challenging to manage. The costs have gone up dramatically, and our demand had shifted in ways that didn't really make the way we were running the bus sustainable. So we plan this year to do a very robust study of how can we do buses in a way that where the demand is actually meeting the cost, because we were running empty buses and that didn't make any sense. But we are really hopeful to bring back buses as we think about next year and the additional 2 years of growth that we still have ahead.
Let me ask you a question, and I think I saw some of this sort of circulating in the chat. But as I was looking at the chart, I think that you had, looked like the current student population was around 450 something or something like that. I can't remember exactly what the number was. But so now with the new additions, what are the anticipated increases, I guess?
Our plan has always been for pre-K to 5th grade to go to about 600 students, and we anticipate being right around that number, between 600 and 630 students.
Okay.
And that really allows us to add 4th and 5th grade, because right now we only have pre-K through 3rd grade.
Okay. And so I guess going back on some of the earlier
Mhm.
statement that you made with regard to parking, and I know you had talked about a study, but could you just tell me, I think based on your current operations, what has been your experience with employees and parking related concerns? Have you, I mean, has there been ample parking? What's been your experience?
We have had enough parking for demand from staff. We have, as I said, we have 46 spaces, and we've been able to accommodate the staff demand for parking on site. And the way that we've addressed the demand for parking, I think the biggest concern that I'm hearing from the neighborhood and that I know is a challenge is we have about 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the afternoon where families are dropping off or picking up students, and they're very young children. So that has created a bit of a backlog on Farnham Street. We do run a drop car line, and we see about 100 to 140 cars coming through the car line or parking in our spaces. And that's where we do see Varnum is backing up a little bit, and we are hopeful that with the additional property, we can create a different loop for that traffic, for that car line, that will allow it to back up on our circle versus onto Varnum Street. That's one of the ways we're thinking about it. There is a task force that's coming out of last week's single member district meeting with a lot of creative solutions and ideas for things we might do. And so I'll be meeting with neighbors to consider which of the ideas on the table are things that we can do, whether we can stagger arrivals as one way to do that, whether we can require cars that are parking on site or in our car line to put a Mundo Verde sticker on their car. So then if they go through the alley, for sure that they're a Mundo Verde car, and we've had trouble with some of the alley traffic, some of which is ours and some of which isn't. But I think being able to crack down on it on our side has been hard because we don't often know who it is. So we're thinking about creative ways to identify our families more prominently to the neighbors. So your Mundo Verde car number 61 and we saw you double parked in the alley or something like that. I don't have all the
Kristen, if I
solutions,
can
but
jump in on that real quick. So Chairman Edwards, as Kristen alluded to, so we had a single member district meeting last week with Mundo Verde about their bond hearing and the status of their proposal, and talking with the neighbors about traffic concerns. And from that meeting, as Kristen mentioned, we developed a task force that's actually joint between 5A03 and 5B05, which is the bordering community. That group is going to be meeting to talk through a proposal that was drafted by one of my single member district residents with some solutions. And so it's going to be a joint collaborative effort between them and also Kristen and representatives from Mundo Verde to come up with a sort of an agreement with the community. I do also want to mention that last night, the community also met with DDOT. My single member district met with DDOT specifically to talk about traffic issues on 10th Street in Varnum. Not all related to Mundo Verde, but a lot related to Mundo Verde. And you could hear the frustration in the community members' voices as we talked to Delando Baker, who was there representing DDOT. And so it is very clear, and I think he got the message loud and clear, that this needs to be addressed. We continue to need results and action taken. And so I think that we are going to continue to have these conversations with the community, with the school, with DDOT, because clearly, there are already problems, but with the expansion, there's going to be more. I will say one of the things that we did last year or so is that we were able to acquire them additional parking that they didn't have originally through a property that is owned by Providence. It's the property that they eventually purchased, but they had that parking lot for a period of time to add to their parking, which also helped. But as you may or may not be familiar with that, or other people on the call, there's really literally only one way in and one way out of that school. And the way the traffic circle goes, the outbound side of the traffic circle goes right into the line of cars that are coming in. So it's a terrible situation. So we have to be creative. And I also have pulled together a group of people because that whole area, as you know, between the Kennedy School, Providence, Mundo Verde, we're going to continue in EYA, you know, that whole area is being developed with growth. So we have to come up with more creative solutions to address traffic issues, provide more biking opportunities for residents, walking path opportunities. And so I'm hoping to work with everybody and the developers in that area to come up with creative solutions to address these issues that Kristen has mentioned.
And the civic associations have been involved or sort of know what's going on, or?
So the Civic Association has not been involved yet because this has just come up. They just had their bond hearing, but we absolutely will be working with the Civic Association as well.
Okay.
Actually, I take it back. I think the Michigan Park Citizens Association is aware of it, but the Michigan Park, we will be including them shortly.
All right. I've sort of been looking around. I don't see any hands raised. Yeah, Ms. Scotchmer, is there anything else that you'd like to say to us regarding this? I want to commend you guys for the success there. You here at an opportunity now where you're getting ready to grow. The community, of course, has their concerns, and so I look forward to working with you guys, and I know the community as well, to address whatever the issues and concerns are, so that we can continue to have a cooperative relationship. Commissioner Lucio, anything else?
Not on this topic. Thank you, Chairman Edwards.
Thank you, Chairman Edwards. Appreciate the time and space tonight, and look forward to being very present as this moves forward, both for the construction reasons as well as managing the expansion and the impact on the neighborhood. And thank you, Commissioner Lucio, for your support on this project and thoughtful representation of the needs of the community.
Thank you, Kristen. The one thing I do want to say, Chairman Edwards, I didn't say it earlier, is that, Kristen mentioned that I had assisted with them in terms of making sure that they secured that property. And, I think of all the options that they had, that really was the best option, in spite of the fact that it's going to pose significant challenges to the community. For the sake of the children and the school, that really was a good option. So we're very happy to move that forward.
Yes, thank you.
All right, I see Mr. Keating has his hand up. Mr. Keating, you got the floor.
Yeah, just a few words. I want to say to start, we're very impressed by the school. I am, at least. It's a very professionally run organization. They're doing great work, and we would like to be able to support them here in the community. Our own religious order is dedicated to education as well, but just to state boldly what seems to have happened, and I'd be corrected on it, that in 2017, there was discussion about the traffic, and the traffic has been difficult with the numbers you have now. And you were going to go look for a second facility to be able to put the students there, number one. But we assumed they'd be away from us, though. But the choice of using a property kitty corner from your present school leaves us with a lot of concerns. You've heard that before, and I just want to say that you're increasing the school by about a third, I think. And nothing's going to happen to Varnum Street, and nothing's going to happen to the corner of Varnum and 8th. And that's the challenge, is as blunt as that. That if you have been able to find a property away from here, I don't think you'd be raising these questions like this. There'll be more nitpicking away at the present traffic situation. But to look at that sudden drop of another third for that school, and we're across the street from you and you other neighbors down on the other side of Varnum Street as well. And But I want to say that I'm impressed with what you're doing. You have a great mission. You're trying to do it well. You're studying well, but this is a real impasse we have to get through now, and I hope we can find a way to do it. In any way you can think of to deal with that busing has been a thought, but I think I'll just leave it there. I just wanted to put that out there and say that's what we're facing here. So thanks.
All right. And thank you. Commissioner Lucio, you are working with Mr. Keating as well, right?
I am, and Commissioners, I want to address a question that's in the chat that's indirectly related, and let him know, Zach, that protected bike lanes are already in the works on Taylor Street. So that's already on the plans. And I believe Commissioner Rojas has a question.
Yeah, Commissioner Lucia, it's actually just a question for you. It's I know you said that your SMD met with DDOT last night. What were some of the potential solutions discussed? Were there any discussed, or is it just kind of the starting phase of that?
Yeah, so Commissioner Rojas, you may recall that about a year in 2019, this commission or this ANC passed a resolution, a joint resolution between ANC 5A and ANC 5B on traffic calming measures, and we listed about 25 different things we were requesting from DDOT. So essentially, it was an update to that resolution to see what had been done, what hadn't been done, why it hadn't been done. For anybody who wants that resolution, it's on the website. And so it was just basically an update to talk about to share why those things hadn't been done. And most of the conversation related around the traffic in the alley and why they couldn't put speed humps in the alley, and other things related to issues with the alley.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Seeing no further questions on that issue, I'm prepared now to move on to the next items. And Commissioner Lucio, you still have the floor for P&D.
Yep. Thank you so much, Chairman Edwards. So everyone, this is a update. As you know, at our special meeting a couple weeks ago, we voted on the Kennedy School development and the 801 Buchanan Street development. They had their Board of Zoning meeting last week. The Kennedy School project itself was approved, so that is going to be moving forward. However, the townhouses, there was some discussion about that, and then they have asked them to go back and address a couple of things, and then they will be submitting their proposal again for the hearing. So I've invited John Oliver to come represent that project. So Mr. Oliver, you have the floor, and I believe you should have co-hosting ability.
Perfect, guys. Thank you. It's great to be here this evening. For the record, my name is John Oliver with the law firm of Holland and Knight. Let me go ahead and share my screen. I have a brief PowerPoint presentation that will talk about updates on this project and what's happened in this past week. So can we all see this slideshow?
Yes.
All right,
Yep.
perfect. So as we've heard, we're here talking about BZA case number 20751. It's the townhome project that's going to impact 801 Buchanan Street. As we heard, we went to the Board of Zoning Adjustment last week. What arose from that meeting, they asked us to go back and research two more items. Those items pertain to the legal standard of review for what the variance requires. So we can see it on this slide. The first question that the Board of Zoning Adjustment posed was they wanted us to research and expand upon some more clarification of the variance relief, explain whether or not a special exception was possible, or if the area variance was still required. They also had questions which were pertaining to how the easement access would work, because if we can recall what the variance request was for, it was for the street width requirements, which essentially require every private alley, every private streetway to be 24 feet in width. And what we were doing is we were going to provide easements across each lot, which would then bring the true alley width up to 24 feet. The board had questions about how those easements would work. The board also had questions about, does this need to be a variance or could this be a special exception? So we were asked to go back, research that. What the applicant and our project team were able to do is we were able to reconfigure the site plan. Again, the site plan, we'll see it on our next slide, looks exactly the same from what we've seen past few meetings, but we were able to rework it. So now our lots are not as long as they once were. Now we actually do have 24-foot wide compliant driveways. So we no longer need that variance request. The BZA continued our public hearing 2 weeks. So now we're going back in front of the Board of Zoning Adjustment next week. On this slide, we just want to go ahead and show us what's changed with our site plan. Again, it is the same site plan we've all seen, right? You know, the townhomes are still there, the private alleyways are still there, the 2 areas of green space are still there. All that we're seeing is now private alleys are 24 feet in width, so there's no longer that variance requirement. So that is the quick update I have for you guys. Happy to take any questions that you guys might have.
Thank you,
Alright.
Mr. Oliver. I think Chairman Edwards, it's pretty straightforward. It's not a major change from what we talked about last time. We just wanted to provide an update for the community.
All right, appreciate that. So I guess, so just in summary, the thing that I gleaned from this is where the alleys are going to be wider, and that's pretty much it. The project remains the same.
Right, correct.
All right. And I don't see any questions. I mean, any hands raised. Commissioner Lucio,
I'm good,
Commissioner
Commissioner.
Oliver, anything else in closing?
Nope,
Here's a
that's all I have,
question.
sir. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
I saw a question, Commissioner Lucio, could you see it? It had in the chat. The last one that came up, I missed it.
How would the covenant for the green spaces be enforced? Would it be incumbent upon neighbors to pursue litigation?
Ms. Perkins, that's a great question. Now I'm thinking back to property law. So essentially how that would be recorded is they would be recorded as CC&Rs that would run with the land. They would state that the green space and that the private roadways will be open to the public. If, again, that CC&R would be written in a way that the HOA or that those that own the townhomes can't vote to change it, so it couldn't be changed. I think, you know, just more address your question. Your question pertains to what happens if it does. We don't foresee that happening because, again, there's no mechanism to walk back the CC&R and to make them private. But if it were, again, any member of the public that's negatively impacted by walking back that covenant would have the right to sue. I hope that addresses your question.
All right. And look like the follow-up to that is there a litigation fund?
This person at this point in time, not that I know of, but again, how those CC&Rs will be drafted and what the covenant will look like, that it's an extremely unrealistic outcome. Again, there's no way for those that own the townhomes or for the HOA to make the green space or make the private roadways private.
Thank you. Chairman Edwards, how does the ANC typically handle these types of situations? How does the ANC get involved?
Well, I think coming through the SMD, if there is an issue or a concern that needs to be brought to the ANC, I mean, we you know, yes, I mean, but I mean, I'm not sure all the deep background here in terms of the discussion you guys are having now and whether or not that's something that we should or could get involved in. But if it's a concern for the community and we can do and be involved in helping to improve in some way, sure, we get involved.
Okay, well, thank you. I definitely appreciate all the work that the developer and the ANC has been doing in order to bring this project to fruition. I just wanted to make sure that the neighbors have some recourse if perhaps the HOA or other parties decide not to allow us to use the green space consistent with the covenant. And so I just didn't want us to be left holding the bag as far as litigation costs.
I understand. And so I think Commissioner Lucio, let's have a follow-up conversation with regard to that, just to see what, if anything, we can find out about what the guidelines are. So, yeah.
Chairman Edwards, I would assume they would be similar to, we're having a similar discussion with the EYA development in terms of the park area. And I would assume it would be similar to that, because that's built into their HOA as well.
All right, Ms. Perkins, then we're gonna put you on the list for some follow-up, I think, with Commissioner Lucio and or myself in this regard. Okay, is there anything else that we have? As I look through the agenda, look like we've exhausted the agenda for the evening. It is a nice and early 7:30. So
Chairman,
so I don't have any problem with ending this meeting at this point unless there's some unreadiness.
I just want to make an announcement on behalf of Commissioner Fletcher that there is a public safety task force meeting next Thursday.
Next Thursday?
Yes.
All right. And commissioners, just in closing, I sent you a draft of our annual report earlier, just shortly, a few minutes ago, I guess I should say. So if you could just take some time to sort of look at it. If you look on the sides, you'll see some comments, areas where you can help to sort of answer some questions or fill in some blanks. But what I would like to do is to have us review that and then be able to vote on it as a final document at our November meeting.
Sounds good, yep.
Okay.
Oh, Chairman Edwards, in relation to the November meeting, when we met in January and voted on the calendar, we specifically had a discussion about the date of the November meeting and it was asked that we not make a change at that point. Currently, the November meeting is scheduled for the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I would kindly like to request that we meet the Wednesday before.
Well, I think we have a
But the problem is we don't have a quorum to do that.
yeah. So we have a calendar. Now, what we can do is look at maybe reaching out to the commissioners and having a discussion about maybe changing and having, say, like a special meeting. And we can have that special meeting the third Wednesday, and then maybe not have the regular monthly meeting.
I would be okay with that.
Yeah, I think that would probably be the approach to take. Lieutenant?
Yes, hi, Commissioner Lucio. So my question was, instead of just kind of, I don't know, picking out pieces from the agenda to send in the email distribution, if you could just send the whole agenda so that it's clear that it's the entire agenda rather than just pieces of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any problem, Jenna. I was always told just to put the highlights on there because the agenda has the potential to always change. But I don't have any problem. We can always talk about that. But but I always, as I mentioned, put the agenda, the full agenda on the website.
Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
No, I was also going to just respond to Zach's question, and the answer is I don't know. I believe it was in person last time, so I'm assuming it'll be in person this time.
So Commissioner Lucio likes to always be informative, Lieutenant, with the community. I think in terms of what's going to be on the agenda. So she tried to do her best to provide you the latest information I think that she has at a given point in time about what's going to be on the agenda. And then on the final day, some things may be added, some things may be removed, but everybody should, Commissioner Lucio, if we could, just make sure that everybody on the day of the meeting get a copy of the, or at least can see the agenda that we are working from at the meeting. Since there is no requirement for us to even include the agenda items on the notice, but Commissioner Lucio likes to do it. It creates a little confusion, but it's helpful. And so we'll do our best, and then at the meetings, try to make sure you all get a copy of the agenda that we actually work from at the meeting. Is there anything further? Okay, I see Councilmember McDuffie's office is here. And hands raised, so
Yeah.
you have the floor.
I was just gonna, before the meeting concluded, thank you, Chairman. Introduce myself. My name is Laisha Jordy. I work for Councilmember McDuffie, and for my support and services. If you guys have anything that come up in the community, I will say that we are nearing the end of Council Period 24, which is the last day is December 31st. And so right now we're really focused on pushing bills out of committee and getting hearings and legislative meetings and things like that. So that's primarily my update. But Chairman, I just wanted to make myself known in case anyone had any questions for me.
Okay, yeah, no, I didn't. Thank you. Glad that you're here. Let me just add, if I could just follow up. Probably have not yet had an opportunity, but you get a chance to talk to Councilman McDuffie or someone in your office about the moratorium we talked about, the liquor moratorium in Michigan, North Michigan Park.
I don't think I recall that issue. Do you want to just quickly?
Well, at the last meeting, remember when you were closing out, I think we sort of talked about the liquor store license that had been requested at right there next to McDonald's. And we were successful in the appeal of that through ABRA. And Councilman McDuffie, remember I had said, had indicated that if we were successful, he would work with the council to see if he could get a moratorium on liquor stores in North Michigan Park. And you said you were going to check on it and get back to us at the next meeting.
So I will say that I didn't attend the last meeting. I think it was one of my colleagues. So I do apologize that maybe we did not communicate about this, but
okay.
To this and circle back with you. I just made a note of it.
Okay. All right. Lieutenant.
Hi, Ms. Doherty. I just had a quick question about, everybody's been talking about the rewrite of the criminal code, and I know I think it recently passed out of committee, and I was just curious if you are aware of any concerns that Councilmember McDuffie may have about this at all. Has he expressed any concern?
Yeah. So we did, so it was brought up yesterday in the mayor council breakfast. And so the council member and I have not had a chance to speak about it. So I'm unable to state right now any concerns that you may have.
Okay.
Anything further? Laisha, if you said you'll and you can give me a call if you want to, once you know anything, just about that'll work as well. Anything else? All right, there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank everyone.
Thanks, Chairman. Have a good night, everyone.